Welcome to the 10-Minute Treasure. My name is Jeff Pospisil, and there are a number of churches that have just become Global Methodist. And you've had to worry about things like disaffiliation and deeds and incorporating and all this other kind of stuff, tax ID numbers and all that. And now I'm giving you something else that's hopefully a tool to help and to take a worry away. One is, how do you budget for your new Global Methodist pastor's pension? So how do you budget for that? So I'm just going to do a quick video just to talk about that and just give you a tool that will hopefully make this easy for you. Before I show you the calculation, I want to just give you a quick overview of the plan. It's called the Covenant Personal Investment Plan. So Covenant Personal Investment Plan, it's managed by Westpath, so the same company that manages the United Methodist pensions. But the difference is, unlike the United Methodist pensions, there's no defined benefit piece. So defined benefit basically means that it's based on the years of service of a pastor, and we end up guaranteeing the income. So no matter what the economy is doing, no matter how long people are living, the church always has to guarantee that the pastors will get paid. And one of the cruddiest parts of that is, I remember this specifically in 2008, 2009, the economy's crashing, giving's down at a church, but then the pension bill is going up because we have to guarantee that defined benefit. So the covenant plan is defined contribution, which means that we are committing to make a contribution of a certain percentage into the pastor's retirement account. So this is a lot like an IRA or a 401k, where we are just committing to putting that contribution in there, but we're not guaranteeing the economy is all going to work out. We're not guaranteeing all that other stuff that we don't have any control over. We can guarantee how much we put in today, but we can't guarantee the future. So that's the difference. So what amount are we putting in? We start off with a 5% non-matching piece. So we're contributing 5%, and I'll tell you what 5% of what in a little bit, but the church is guaranteeing to put in at least 5%. And then the pastor has their portion. So the church is going to match up to an additional 5%. So the total amount that a church would actually be, the total maximum amount is 10%, the minimum amount is 5%. And by the way, there's also an option for lay employees to participate as well. And the church has a little bit more options on how to have this actually set up. But I'm really not going to talk about that. There will be some links in the description if you want to find out more, okay? So I want to repeat this really quick, is that the church, the minimum, if your pastor is enrolled in the plan, so they're not retired, they're enrolled in the plan, the church is committed to at least 5%. And then you match whatever the pastor's contribution is up to an additional 5%. So a maximum of that 10% then. So if the pastor wants to contribute more than 5%, you don't have to match anything over 5%. If the pastor wants to contribute nothing, you're at the 5%. If they want to contribute 2%, then you're only billed for 5% plus that 2 or 7%. Now here's the trickier part. Because this is a pension plan, we want to have a common definition for what is compensation. So we're going to start off with compensation, of course, includes the salary, whatever salary is declared for your pastor. And again, this is assuming they're enrolled in the plan. And then there are some churches that have other compensation. So I've seen like Social Security allowances. So pastors, they pay self-employment taxes of 15.3%. So I've seen churches decide to give half of that, so 7.65% as a Social Security allowance or health insurance allowance or whatever it is. Anything that would normally be also included with the salary in box 1 of their W-2. And then we take that, and that is what I'm going to call the base compensation. Base compensation or base salary. Base compensation is probably what I'll use for the word. And so that's where we start with. Now, if your pastor lives in a parsonage, you're going to multiply that base compensation by 125%. And that gives you then what we're going to call the pension compensation. So the pension compensation, if you live in a parsonage, is the salary plus other compensation, and then multiply that by 125%. Now, if your pastor happens to live in their own home or whatever their own, if you're not providing a parsonage, I'll say it that way. If you're not providing a parsonage and instead you provide a cash housing allowance, instead of multiplying by that 125%, all we're going to do is add on that cash housing allowance. So salary plus other compensation plus cash housing allowance then equals your pension compensation. So let me go ahead and show you this spreadsheet that was developed to help calculate this. I know I just gave you the instructions, but I really like a good spreadsheet. So I'm going to show it to you, even if you probably don't even need it. But let's go ahead and I'm just going to type in the name of the pastor right up here. I'm going to put in Val Rush. He's a friend of mine that just recently passed. Anyway, let's go ahead and for the pastor's compensation. So this is the salary plus any other compensation. So this is what I was calling the base compensation. So salary plus any other compensation. And I'm going to just plug in 30,000. And you can see when I do that, it changes the numbers below. And so I'm going to see I flip back and forth and it changed it. You see this parsonage calculation. All that is the pastor's compensation times 25%. And then there's another number for a cash housing allowance. And I don't know if you can see in the formula, but if I put anything in this one, it'll override that parsonage calculation. So if I put anything in housing allowance, it uses that number. So question might be is what if we neither provide a parsonage or a cash housing allowance? Then what? I would just type in 0 for your parsonage calculation and type in 0 for your housing calculation. And that wipes that out. Then it's just using that base compensation. So I'm going to undo that. And let's just continue with them being in a parsonage. And you can see here's the pastor's pension contribution. So this is what the pastor is going to elect. And you can see right now it's telling us they're contributing 10% of their compensation. But if we were to change that, you're going to see that percentage on the side change as well. So I'm going to change it to 2,400, and now you see it's 6.4%. I could change it to 0, and then it says 0%. And what I need to do now is I want to go ahead and scroll down so you could see the billing. So you can see there's a couple totals here. There's the pastor's pension contribution, there's the church contribution, and then there's that total pension contribution, which is just the amount that you're withholding from the pastor's salary plus that church contribution. And so you can see right now it changes every single time I do it. So you can see at that 1,500, it's a total of 9%. And then if I change it to that 1,875, it's a total of 10%. And if I change it to 2,000, that church part stays at 10%. But hopefully that makes sense. Like I said, I like this tool. I think it's a pretty good one. And it gives you a good idea of what the church will be billed for, as well as what the church pastor's contribution plus the church's contribution is. One thing I want to add, though, is the church will be billed separately for a death and disability benefit. And that in the United Methodist system was usually lumped into the direct bill, but it'll be billed quarterly. And so for an estimate, and again, you're going to get experience. This is going to change based on the age of your pastor and how much they're compensated. But roughly, it's going to be equal to 1.5% of your pastor's total compensation. So adjusted for housing, so that pension compensation amount. So in this case, for this pastor, it'd be about $563. And again, it'll be less if they're younger and more if they're older, but that'll get you in the ballpark. And then after after you get your first bill, actually, you'll have a better idea. Or again, this isn't such a significant amount that I'd be so worried that I'd have to go and get an estimate ahead of time. I think this will be good enough for to start on. And then I just plugged in really quickly what the quarterly billing will be, as well as what the monthly billing would be, just to give you an idea of what that looks like as well. To the end, and I hope this was good for you. I hope it was helpful for you. And I think it might be the very first Global Methodist compensation video on YouTube, maybe. So we'll see. Anyway, next week, I'm going to do health insurance. And then after that, I'm just going to talk really quickly about what a clergy compensation form might look like. I know a lot of us are figuring it out as we go, and I hope these tools are just helpful for you as you're figuring it out, as I am figuring it out. All right, God bless you till next time.